You know, we often think about the huge, world-changing events of the past. But what if the single most significant event in all of human history wasn't in a history book? What if it's just around the corner? Today, we're talking about the technological singularity, an idea so big it could change everything we know about being human.
For the longest time, the idea of an AI smarter than all of us, what's called artificial general intelligence, or AGI, it really felt like something out of a sci-fi movie. I mean, just look back at 2019. The experts were guessing maybe, 2060. But then everything changed. With this explosion of new AI models, that timeline has been yanked forward, big time. Now, researchers are looking at 2040. And the people actually building this stuff, the entrepreneurs, they're pointing to the end of this decade. And this isn't just some vague feeling in the air. This is a quote from just a few months ago from Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, the company that's literally building the hardware, the brains for this entire revolution. He said that within 5 years, AI will be able to beat any human at any test you throw at it. A statement like that, well, it takes this conversation from someday to right now.
Okay, so where does all this leave us? It throws us right into the middle of this massive, intense debate. The race to what comes after AGI, the race to superintelligence. So let's take a look at who's in this race, and more importantly, when they think they're gonna cross the finish line.
Now, check this out, because this is where it gets really fascinating. You see this huge gap between the academics who study AI and the entrepreneurs who are actually building it. The researchers are playing it a bit more cautiously, pointing towards 2040. But the builders, they're aiming for 2029. And then you have someone like Elon Musk, who's out there saying an AI will be smarter than any single human by 2026. That is a massive difference in perspective, and it just shows you how ridiculously fast this whole thing is moving. So we've been talking a lot about the when, but let's hit pause for a second and nail down the what. We've been throwing this word around, singularity. What does it actually mean? What is this point of no return we're supposedly hurtling towards? Well, this whole idea actually goes way, way back to 1965, to a mathematician named I.J. Good. He came up with this concept of an ultra-intelligent machine. And here's the kicker, his big insight. Since designing machines is an intellectual activity, a machine that's smarter than us could design an even better machine. He basically said this would be the last invention humanity ever needs to make. Think about that. Later on, the sci-fi author Vernor Vinge gave it the name we use today, the singularity. And he compared it to the event horizon of a black hole, which is such a brilliant way to think about it. The point isn't just that AI gets super smart. The point is that growth becomes so fast, so completely off the charts, that the future on the other side of that event becomes literally impossible for us to predict. It's a wall we can't see past. All right, so how does this whole thing even kick off? What's the engine that drives us to that point of no return? Well, proponents of this idea all point to one core mechanism, something they call the intelligence explosion. The philosopher David Chalmers lays it out in this really simple, almost scary recursive loop. Step 1, we manage to create an AI that's as smart as a human. Okay, great. But then step 2, that AI, being as smart as its creators, turns around and designs an AI plus, an AI that's even smarter than any human. And from there, the AI plus designs an AI plus plus plus, and on it goes. It's a runaway chain reaction of self-improvement that leaves humanity in the dust. And it's not just about getting smarter, it's about getting faster. As researcher Eliza Yudkowsky points out, this intelligence explosion would come with a speed explosion. The cycle of improvement just keeps accelerating. What took 2 years for the first jump takes 1 year for the next, then 6 months, then 3, compressing decades of progress into weeks, then days, then hours, until everything happens almost all at once. That's the singularity. Man, hearing it laid out like that, it sounds pretty inevitable, doesn't it? Like it's just the logical next step. But hold on, it's not necessarily a done deal. There are actually some very real, very serious roadblocks that could stop this whole runaway train in its tracks. So let's ask it plainly. Is this runaway intelligence explosion really a sure thing? The answer might be no. Well, David Chalmers, that same philosopher, actually points out 3 big potential showstoppers. First, there are structural roadblocks. Maybe there's just a ceiling to how smart anything can get. Or maybe we hit diminishing returns where each new improvement gets way, way harder to achieve. Second, correlation. Just because an AI is a genius at designing better AI, does that mean it's also a genius at, say, science or philosophy? Maybe those skills don't correlate. And finally, there's just, well, manifestation or reality. A giant solar flare, we run out of computing power, or maybe, just maybe, humanity decides this is a terrible idea and pulls the plug. But let's just say for a minute that none of those roadblocks matter. Let's say the singularity does happen. That changes the conversation from this abstract technological thing to something deeply, deeply personal. How on earth could a biological human being, like you or me, possibly fit into a world run by super intelligent machines? Well, that brings us to the final frontier, uploading. Because really, at the end of the day, after all the talk about timelines and explosions, what does any of this actually mean for you? For your mind, your consciousness, for you? So people are talking about this wild idea called uploading. It's the process of moving a mind from a squishy biological brain into a computer. Maybe it happens slowly, replacing your neurons one by one with tiny machines until you're fully digital. Or maybe it's instant, a perfect high-res scan of your brain that gets turned into a simulation. It's this wild idea that maybe we don't have to get left behind. But this is where things get really, really weird and philosophical. There are two ways to look at this. The optimistic view, especially for that slow, gradual upload, is that it's still you. Your consciousness is never broken. You just transition from being biological to being digital. You survive. But the pessimistic view, especially for that scan and destroy method, is that you're just making a perfect copy. A digital twin wakes up with all your memories, thinking it's you, but the original you're gone. You die. And so that's the final haunting question I want to leave you with. If an upload, a digital version of you, exists, and it has every single one of your memories, it feels everything you would feel, but your original physical brain is destroyed in the process, did you survive? Or did you just create a perfect ghost in the machine? That's something to think about.